In this chapter, we will speak about escapes. Escapes is something that you can use in combination with loops and with decisions. Sometimes you would like to break out a loop, for example, or sometimes you would like to skip certain actions during a loop. And that can be accomplished with escape conditions. So I have here my loop, the previous one, and let's run this just to take a look at the results. Remember, this is querying the CyberArk identity and it returns all the users in the directory. Let's take a look at the results. Received, response, body, result, results, and I have 5 elements in my array. The first one is the Swiss integration user. The second one is the Alero integration user. And the third one is my cloud admin. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to add, or first I'm going to delete the data store, and I'm going to add a condition, a join decision. Drag and drop it in my flow, and I'm going to add a data store, create a data store in the left path. Now I'm going to do it in the right path. And I'm going to say in my if condition, if the first value or if the value in my condition, the display name of the user contains cloud admin, then I'm going to take the left path, sorry. And if not, I'm going to take the right path and store it in the data. I'm also going to add a loop break on the left path. And a break will basically break the loop when it hits that element. In the data, I'm going to store the display name. I'm going to say this was added via the right path. Okay. Let's save this and run it and see what happens. Running is completed. Now let's take a look at the data store. Let's click on Manage. So what we see here is indeed the first element. So the first array object, the Alero user and the SWS user. That was the first 2 ones in the row, but you see there's nothing else added. That means as soon as we hit the cloud admin, we've taken the left path, and as a result, from the left path, we broke out of the loop. So we stopped looping the elements. Let's see if we can prove a few more things. Let me first delete all the data, that we have a clean data store. And now let's create some few elements, more elements. I'm going to add one more condition. I'm going to do a loop continuation after I've stored the data on the right path. I'm going to create a data store when the loop is finished. Well, actually, I'm going to do it after the join decision. I'm also going to add one after the loop. I'm going to configure the one after join decision and say like the data name. I'm going to store here not the user ID, but the email. I'm going to say it's added after the join. I'm going to configure also the data store at the end. I'm going to give it a name added after the loop. And data, I'm just for demo purposes, Let's go on 18 here. Now you may see that it's not possible for the data name to select any of the values coming from the elements sitting within the loop, which is normal, of course, because that element, the data store at the end, will not be able to work with any of the elements in the loop. What do we expect here? If the if condition goes to the right path, it will store data and it will continue the loop. Continue the loop will take it back to the beginning of the loop. So that means that the element after the join decision will never be reached. If we take the left-hand path, same story. The data will not be stored because the break will actually break the whole loop and go to the end of the loop. And then it will store or it will execute the last node. Let's save this and let's run it to see what happens. Flow is running, it's completed. Now let's take a look at the data. Click on Manage. So you will find indeed after the loop, it's executed once, and you will find the first two elements in the array to be stored. That element never happened. It never got executed because we had this loop break and this loop condition. The break, like I said, will stop the whole loop from running. So it will execute or exit the loop, while the loop condition, the continue condition, will actually take it back to the beginning of the loop. And therefore, that node will never be executed. Now, if you would place an element behind the break, as you can see, it's not possible to add an element because it doesn't make sense either. You cannot add an element after the break. But in some conditions you can. Let me delete this here and let me now add a loop break before the element. Then you will get an error saying like this element doesn't make sense. It will never be reached. It's unreachable because the loop will be broken before. Okay, so this concludes our lesson on how to use or how to work with escape conditions.